How's it going, folks? So, I've been meaning to discuss this topic for a bit, never really got around to doing this. And I thought now, since I have a little bit of time, be as good a time as any to discuss this. And this involves Uvalde and the AR-15. There's been a claim going around by a certain faction that, well, police had AR-15s themselves. And even with these AR-15s, could not stop the mass killer who had an AR-15 himself. This harkens back on the claim that police are being outgunned by the criminals. And the implication with that, even, is that, well, that one guy with an AR-15 somehow outgunned several police with an AR-15. Not true. Simply put, they had around about the same types of firearms, and the Uvalde police had more officers and more firearms on the ground. I've heard two different reasons as to why the officers stood back in that situation. One claim is they were ordered to stand down, and I got to say this: if that was the case, I would have disobeyed that order if I was a law enforcement officer. Couple of reasons, obviously. One, the children he's gunning down, the mass killer is gunning down, they're far more important than the job. Second, this person is quite frankly a coward. He picked targets. He picked the elementary school because it's most likely a gun free zone. And he's picking targets that are not shooting back. He's not looking for a gunfight. And the second you get somebody else returning fire on him, that's going to change the dynamics for him. It's going to stop that body count right then and there, and until the fire gets taken off him for some reason or another. Um, so, yeah, if he wanted to go and get into a gunfight, he would have just simply gone for a police station or a shooting range, something of that nature. But he chose that elementary school specifically because he wanted targets that weren't going to shoot back. So, and the other thing is that police officers were scared. And if that's the case, those police officers should not be police officers anymore. Look, police officers, you get authorities that the average person doesn't. And by the way, I want to say this right here and right now. I'm not a police officer. So there you have it. And the reason why I bring it up is because I don't want anyone to sit there and think I'm a police officer. I'm not. So with that being said, yeah, if they were scared, they should not be police officers. As a police officer, you get certain authorities the average person doesn't. You have certain expectations that the average person does not have. And you have a certain, quite frankly, degree of respect that the average person does not get. So asking you to do your jobs that you're expected to do is not too much to ask of you. Just plain and simple. Those particular officers in that incident were in the wrong. Plain and simple. They didn't need to wait for Border Patrol to get there or anything like that. They had everything they needed to go stop that mass killer right then and there. This really should actually be a lesson for people. It's just the same as all these mass killings, and I haven't figured out why it hasn't been a lesson yet, is that you really shouldn't rely on the police for your own protection. You should be relying on yourself, and part of that is maybe consider having the tools that you need for personal protection and not supporting laws that are going to take those tools out of your hands. I know a lot of gun controllers like to claim, well, we're really not trying to take your guns. We just want common sense gun laws. That's an absolute lie. They've shown that to be an absolute lie a number of times. I don't know why anyone believes it anymore, quite frankly. But I digress. Now let's get into the sliver of truth about police being outgunned by criminals. Well, this was primarily true in perhaps the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where most police carried revolvers, although probably most police did not carry a revolver so nice as this one, although some did. And quite frankly, if you saw a police officer with this particular model, well, the guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to firearms, and he probably knows how to shoot it too. Of course, that was in previous generation of police. Now, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, when the departments were switching from revolvers to, say, semi-automatics, there were a lot of police that chose to keep their revolvers. The reason for it is because this revolver was a status symbol. It was a sign that you've been around the block for a bit, you know what you're doing, and you don't really need a semi-automatic. Um, Basically, this is kind of, I said status symbol, and that is true. I mean, I guess I'm sticking to status symbol. But this is, I mean, it is an award, basically, kind of. Well, maybe not exactly an award, but it's basically sending a message, hey, I know what I'm doing. Now, and for the longest time, you had police officers that held onto the revolver. Wasn't the best choice, and quite frankly, I don't know why police did not change from the revolvers to semi-automatics sooner, especially given the fact that semi-automatics have been around for a while. This is a model of 1911. Granted, it's not the very first few models. I mean, this is an improved design, and this just was built recently, but still, the basic design's been around for well over 100 years now, well over 100 years, and even in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, police had the option to go into a decent semi-automatic, and that would have been, in my opinion, a smarter choice. The last, even the 1911 is a bit dated, and I know it upset some people. Folks, the 1911 has a special place in my heart. It's been in service for quite some time. It's always going to have my respect as that handgun. The fact of the matter is that honestly, even this is a tad bit obsolete. This M9, well, the very first model of M9 was the M9 FS, if I can recall correctly, is designed in 1975. Now, this obviously is not the FS. This is a later generation, the A1. However, this, even in and of itself, in more of a modern sense, is gotten its age in. I'm not going to say this is completely obsolete, It's not. However, this is actually, in all honesty, if you're looking for a serious personal protection handgun, it's going to be a bit more useful and a bit better than your 1911. So there is the sliver of truth to how the police were getting outgunned by the criminals. It's specifically because the police, and it might have been department policy in some cases, and they might have been officer preference in other cases, but it's because the police wanted to stick with revolvers. Something else you should notice on each of these cases. This revolver here, out of the three handguns you've seen so far, it fires the most powerful round out of all three of them. 357 Magnum. It's chambered in the 357 Magnum. This 1911, chambered in the 45 ACP. It is not as powerful as that Colt Python, chambered in 357 Magnum, but it is more powerful. The round in itself is more powerful than this round fired out of the Beretta M9, which this Beretta M9 is chambered in 9mm. If the power of the round was the sole determining factor, you would see more police with pistols like this Desert Eagle. Two problems with this right off the bat. First off, this is not a beginner's pistol. It's chambered in 50 Action Express. It's got a bit of recoil, and even the people who are experienced enough, like me, who can shoot this thing one-handed, left-handed, or right-handed, know better than to consider this, as a pistol we would use for personal protection or home defense or everyday carry, or even just if we were straight up going into combat. um, when we have something like this. So the power of the round in and of itself is not everything. There are several dimensions to what you want for a good personal protection firearm. Now, the AR-15. Let's bring this out. Gun controllers love to say it's a super powerful rifle. It's not. It's chambered in an intermediate cartridge, which, for those of you who don't know what an intermediate cartridge is, it's basically the compromise between a pistol round and a rifle round. What makes it such a decent rifle is the fact that the round is balanced. It's a compromise between a pistol round and a rifle round. That's what makes it so general purposey. Low recoil. Rifle is really accurate for where you need to be accurate at. It's not high powered. It's the balance of pretty much all the firearms. That's what makes the AR-15 such a great rifle. No, it shouldn't be banned. In fact, the very same threats these police officers face, you might have to face protecting yourself from these criminals. Hey, if it's a type of person a police officer's going to have to face or might have to face, it's a threat that you might have to face here too. We're all in the same country, all in the same cities, same towns, and everything like that. This is why the AR, well, really any weapon the police have, the average person should have it at their disposal. And I think any police officer who wants to shoot straight with you will give you the same answer. However, I'm starting to go off a little bit because I've already covered what I wanted to put out. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank y'all for watching. I think y'all got a comment section below for your own opinions, and y'all take her easy out there.